Morning. I am giving public comment today to address the 17-page memorandum issued by Corporation Counsel on April 13, 2023, because of what I perceive as a blatant and outright attempt by council to undermine elected county representatives, manipulate the public record, falsely label certain supervisors in a politically divisive manner, and overall mislead the public. This statement has been compiled with the utmost seriousness and integrity demanded of me by my oath of office. Before I begin, I want to make something abundantly clear. I do not work for Corporation Counsel, Chris Polzer, or a faceless entity called the county. I work for the people of Columbia County. They are who I ultimately answer to as an elected representative. Supervisors, including the chair, are public servants, and that is something I fear is being forgotten by some members of this board. Because of time constraints and the overwhelming amount of inaccurate and misrepresented information contained in the memo, I will address a few main points today that will be followed by a full public rebuttal in the coming weeks. Due to the egregious nature of the memo, I will be seeking personal counsel as well as pursuing every available avenue of ethics accountability through the Office of Lawyer Regulation and the Office of Open Government due to corporate counsel's documented and repeated violation of the rules of professional conduct. Chapter 20 of the Supreme Court rules under 8.4c state that it is a professional misconduct for a lawyer to engage in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation. 8.3a also states that a lawyer who knows that another lawyer has committed a violation of the rules of professional conduct that raises a substantial question as to the lawyer's honesty, trustworthiness, or fitness as a lawyer in other respects shall inform the appropriate professional authority. With that stated, I will provide a brief timeline of events of the last 8 months, as well as documented cases of misconduct. Keep in mind that due to the public interest in the issue of utility scale solar, every single full board meeting, as well as various committee meetings since October of 2022, have been recorded and are irrefutable evidence of public record. The overarching theme of the memorandum is the assertion from Corporation Counsel that supervisors have not followed proper procedures, have ignored state laws, and have not sought Corporation Counsel's advice specifically on the issue of utility scale solar, and the various resolutions that arose and were voted on by the full board were a result of that negligence. This can be refuted easily with the following timeline of events. Excuse me. On August 25th, 2022, I requested via email through my position on land and water conservation that committee chair Mike White put solar on the agenda for discussion at the September 12th meeting due to overwhelming requests from my constituents to address the issue. After receiving confirmation from Supervisor Y that the solar was going to be discussed, I formulated a rough draft of 2 potential ordinances that I presented to Susan Fisher at the meeting for her review. The minutes for that meeting reflect Ms. Fisher stated she would review the ordinances and report back with potential options. Supervisor Y also stated the discussion on solar would be continued at future meetings. At the October 3rd Land and Water Conservation meeting, after multiple requests for items to be placed on the agenda by committee members, including solar, were ignored by Chair Y, a majority vote to reject the agenda resulted and the meeting was concluded. No attempts were made by Susan Fisher in the month between the September and October committee meetings to reach out to me regarding the legality of the ordinances submitted for her review. On October 19th at the full board meeting, following lengthy public comment requesting supervisors take action to discuss multiple utility scale solar projects in the county, I made a motion in compliance with Standing Rule 1.9 to have an agenda item at the next full board meeting to consider and take action on the issue of commercial solar by ordinance or resolution. This motion overwhelmingly passed on a 24-1 vote. I also made a motion that was carried by the full board to send a mailer to every resident within 1 mile of a known solar installation, informing them of the public hearing on solar on November 15th. That voted on action was completely ignored by the clerk and Corporation Counsel. Even when I offered assistance in compiling a list of impacted residents that was readily available on the PSC dockets for both the High Noon and Langdon Mills projects, multiple requests from the public about the reasoning behind ignoring the board-directed action were completely ignored by both the Corporation Counsel and the clerk. On November 9th, after 2 full months without any communication or direction from Susan Fisher on the ordinance that I had been presented for her review on September 12th, and after multiple attempts to go through the committee process were blocked by Chair Y, I submitted a resolution in compliance with the procedure outlined in Standing Rule 5.6e. Later on, November 10th, with the release of the agenda for the full board meeting the following week, I saw that my email containing the resolution to Corporation Counsel and Small had simply been copied, including my personal note, and was not put into proper resolution format. The morning of November 11th, I immediately called Corporation Counsel's office to discuss the formatting issue and confirmed that the resolution was in fact an actionable item on the agenda. Susan Fisher returned my call that afternoon and repeatedly confirmed during the conversation that the resolution was indeed actionable. Ms. Fisher never voiced any procedural concerns with the resolution or its content during that conversation. At the November 15th public hearing, during the discussion of the resolution, Susan Fisher then brought up multiple issues with the resolution that she had not shared previously and encouraged the board to send the resolution to Planning and Zoning as they were the appropriate committee to deal with the land use issue. On November 17th, knowing that Planning and Zoning Committee would be taking over the issue of solar, Vice Chair Groves sent a group email to Susan Fisher, myself, and Kurt Calkins, where she presented 6 different possible dates to meet with Corporation Counsel and Kurt to discuss legal options regarding solar going forward. To my knowledge, this offer was rejected by Corporation Counsel. I also made a request via email that same day to have a joint committee meeting between Land and Water and Planning and Zoning in order to have the best representation of the departments directly impacted by solar projects in the county. And because Standing Rule 25.1a states that Land and Water shall advise on matters pertaining to agriculture in the county, something utility solar greatly impacts, this request also rejected by Chair Polzer and Corporation Counsel, and I was removed from the email chain and the subsequent meeting discussion. At the December 6th Planning and Zoning meeting, Jay Curtis was asked to attend via conference call to answer questions from supervisors about the legality of solar resolutions or ordinances. Due to technical difficulties, all questions were not able to be addressed, and I requested to make a personal phone call to Jake in order to have those questions answered before the meeting ended. Ms. Fisher stated that Attorney Curtis was unavailable to speak with me. At 3:53 p.m., while the meeting was still in progress, I was the accidental recipient of an email from Attorney Curtis stating that he was in the car and was available to talk. He later confirmed that email was intended for Ms. Fisher. Shortly after that email was sent, Susan exited the meeting and made a phone call. You can only assume that the call was made to Attorney Curtis based on the time frame. On February 10th, I called Attorney Jake Curtis to ask questions regarding his article in the February issue of the County's Association magazine, as he had encouraged supervisors to do in the inclusion of that document. This phone call was never returned by Attorney Curtis. As the stated timeline shows, countless attempts have been made over the span of the last 8 months to have the concerns about utility scale solar addressed by Corporation Counsel, both by the public and multiple supervisors. And the response has been countless roadblocks, avoidance, refusal to respond to emails, and a never-ending reiteration of all things that can't be done. Instead of providing legal guidance on what could be done, I will now highlight 2 of the most glaring examples of misconduct on behalf of Corporation Counsel as it pertains to the memorandum and conduct of public meetings. On page 13 of the memorandum under point D, Corporation Counsel stated that at the February 6th Planning and Zoning meeting that Supervisor Colbert made a motion to meet with solar and wind developers, and the motion was seconded by Supervisor Groves. After reviewing the video of that meeting, it was in fact Supervisor Hahn that had made the motion to meet with developers, with the subsequent second being made by Supervisor Richmond. This was clarified at the March 7th Planning and Zoning meeting by Supervisor Groves, and those corrections were made to the minutes before their approval. Joe Ruff, Attorney Curtis, and Susan Fisher were all present at that meeting and heard the discussion and clarification of those motions. Despite this fact, and despite knowing that the minutes for that meeting were not approved as written, Corporation Counsel falsely stated that it was Supervisor Colbert who had made the motion to meet with the developers, accusing him of contradictory actions, and directed everyone who read the memorandum to see the February meeting minutes. They were not even available at the time of publication of the memorandum because they had not been posted. In that same section on page 13 of the memorandum, Corporation Counsel states that it was decided at the February Planning and Zoning Committee meeting that joint development agreement discussions would take place, and that those discussions had been put on hold due to the public hearing on April 18th regarding a moratorium on the issuance of permits for solar energy facilities. This leads into the second documented case of misconduct on behalf of Corporation Counsel. After reviewing publicly available video on March 7th Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, it was noted that Vice Chair Groves had asked Susan Fisher about the status of setting up the informal meeting with the solar and wind developers. Ms. Fisher stated that there was not a date set at the time for a meeting. Vice Chair Groves then stated that she had received information that a meeting had been scheduled by the county to take place on March 27th. Ms. Fisher responded there was no meeting scheduled for that date and that Chair Groves had incorrect information. However, at the March 15th full board, public comment was given by a town supervisor from Portland stating that their attorney had communicated with legal counsel for Samsung, who confirmed that we did in fact have a meeting scheduled for the county for March 27th, and that it would include a subset of County Board Supervisors. It was stated this meeting would be in addition to the meeting scheduled for sometime in April. When Chair Polster and Joe Ruff were questioned later on during the meeting on March 15th about the meeting scheduled for March 27th, both publicly denied knowledge of its existence. On April 18th, public comment was given again by the supervisor from Portland, who shared the contents of yet another email he had received from their lawyer that was in direct contradiction to the statement made by Corporation Counsel and the chair. This email again confirmed the existence of two separate meetings scheduled by the county, one on March 27th and one on April 13th. The only one the entire Board of Supervisors was made aware of was the April 13th meeting. The email from Samsung's lawyer also highlighted that it was the county that had canceled both meetings immediately following the March 15th full board meeting and not the developers. This only scratches the surface of the issues with the memorandum itself. There are countless other ethical and procedural issues that have to be addressed in the coming months. At the time of this statement, I have identified at least 10 different standing rule violations, either directly or indirectly by the Chair and Corporation Counsel over the last 8 months. There's also been at least 4 different county ordinance violations and at least 2 possible state statute violations. The list of these violations is as follows. Standing Rule 1, subsection 8, Standing Rule 1, subsection 9, Standing Rule 2, subsection 4, Standing Rule 9, sub 1, 19 sub 1, 19 sub 3, 23 sub 1, 23 sub 7, 24 sub 2, 24 sub 3A, 25 sub 11A, the Code of Ordinances 3.06 sub 5, 3.15 sub 2, 3.15 sub 3, 2.07, and the state statutes 19.84 sub 2. In order for our county government to function efficiently and with the utmost transparency and integrity, we cannot continue to have a double standard for the rules when applied and who is to follow them. And we cannot have a corporation counsel actively working to undermine the efforts of duly elected supervisors of whom their statutory answer to according to the state statute 5942(1)A and the subsequent cited opinion of the Attorney General that states, the corporation counsel serves at the pleasure of the county board. And I didn't even begin to touch the libel claims made in that memorandum. Thank you.
Jared Franklin.